Hey everyone, welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Real Estate Wealth and Overall Health. We got a fantastic episode today. Merilyn will get into that. But before we do get into our episode for today, we just wanted to say that if you do like what you're hearing, or if you're interested in hearing past or previous episodes, follow us at a.m.realty group on YouTube, at a.m.realty.group on Instagram, or a.m. Realty Group on Spotify, Real Estate Wealth, and Overall Health. So with that being said, Mer, what are we looking at today?
Today we're going to talk about first-time buyers, and we have a lot of them that are currently the beginning of spring market that are out and looking. So I want to know, tell me all the things related to first-time buyers, and we're going to go through a couple tough questions for you there, Adriano.
Oh, so today I'll be put on the spot, but
you're in the hot seat.
Yeah. So if you are looking to make to buy a home, especially as a first-time buyer, it's a little bit different. We did a segment. Our last episode was on upsizing. So if you are looking to upsize, take a look at that. But with a first-time buyer, it's a little bit different. There's nerves, there's hesitation, there's down payments, there's a lot of things. So we'll touch on those as we move forward today in our episode.
Yes. So if I'm a first-time buyer, I think the first thing that I would want to know, if I'm renting, I have a flat fee every month other than maybe utilities, but for my cost for my rent is usually a fixed cost every month. So why own?
Well, that's a good thing. So owning is one of those things that a lot of people think it is a privilege to own. We had that conversation yesterday with clients. And owning is a way to develop equity, especially at a young age. It allows you to get into bigger properties because a lot of times it's very difficult to come up with a big down payment right off the bat unless you get like a gift or something from a family member, or you're able to save a lot of money. So buying a home, living in it, paying down the principal on the mortgage, and then allowing, over time the property to increase, that gives you the ability to either save or pull equity from that property later on to get into like a bigger house, maybe a more longer term, a matrimonial home, or even just a bigger thing. It's very hard to make a jump right into a large house. I find people have to do it in steps. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's a good idea to kind of buy something, whether you live in it or even use it as a rental, just to kind of give yourself the ability to to save and build equity. That's what I think. Do you have any thoughts? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that for a lot of times you need more space as well. So it might even be, like you mentioned, there's a process and there's steps. So, if I'm a first-time buyer, would I look at, buying something that is maybe a condo because the price point is less to start out? Or is it that I try to look for maybe something the next step up, which is usually like maybe a townhouse or a semi-detached that might have that separate entrance that, has a basement that could be rented out, and then a lot of banks still look at 50% of that rental income potential to help qualify. So I think if I'm a first-time buyer, I want to factor all that in, because if let's say to get in, I would buy a 1 or 1+10 condo because the price point's more attractive, and then obviously the amounts I'd have to put down payment, deposit would be less because deposit's typically 5%. I think I'd want to ask myself, well, how long? Like, what's my plan in the next 5 years? Are we growing a family? Am I going to need more space? Then it might make more sense to, if I can qualify for more, or does that mean if I have to save more, then we just go to the next step up, which would be something like a townhouse or a semi-detached, so I don't have to feel like I'm running out of space and need a new crib in the next couple of years, right? So I think those are all things to consider. And then, as we've mentioned many times in our episodes, location, right? So you got to look at, I would like to know about the neighborhood and, the school district, demographics, parks, that type of thing too. Are you like to be in nature? Are you okay with more of a subdivision feel? Do you need to be close to transit or highways for commutes? So I think those are all things that you should definitely, which makes it challenging because sometimes you like different areas and you just don't know which one to kind of aim towards, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of factors. It could be overwhelming, and I think narrowing down even just location, that's a big step in the process.
Yeah. So I guess to own a home is basically, to go back to that question, is just allowing yourself to build the equity, because it's hard to save that, allowing the real estate and the bank to loan you the money to build equity to get into something bigger as you go along. And I guess sometimes if two couples come together if two people come together and they both have, a smaller property, they can maybe sell both of them and then have the money to get into something bigger. So that's one of the things. It's very difficult to save. And, that goes into the next point that I wanted to talk about, where it comes to motivation, because a lot of people, when they're renting, the reality of it is that unless you have a really big down payment, you're probably going to be paying more with a mortgage than you are for renting. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm comfortable. Like, why am I going to go from $2,500 to having to pay $3,500 just to own? And that kind of comes into the motivation of wanting to be able to pay down something, because $2,500, what is that? $30,000 a year that just goes to nothing. The other way, even though you're paying more, you're able to pay down a principal, and hopefully you get some appreciation. So that money is going towards something. So I think some people just want to rent, and if they're able to save that extra $1,000 and put it into an account, into another investment, then I would say maybe renting is for you. But a majority of people, when they have disposable income, they're like, here, I have $1,000 left over. I'm going to go spend it on lifestyle or spend it on things that I don't really, or sometimes not even on things that they need. And at the end of the month, there's no savings. So I feel like, owning something too, as we get into, this is another topic that we're going to touch on, it becomes like a forced saving. So how do you feel like, as a first-time buyer, because we've been doing this long enough, 20 years, what do you think the hardest thing to motivate people to make that jump into taking, to owning a property?
I think it comes down to, like you had said, a bit of the cost, right? So if I know my fixed amount for my rent, I'm paying $2,500 right now a month. Now all of a sudden, if I look at, what's my cost to borrow, and then there's always disposal fees when you move to movers, lawyers, land transfer tax. When I look at that, I have to, be comfortable with the amount that I'm going to be now no longer having in that savings account as a nest, and then also being, comfortable with, depending on, the job that you have, that I'm going to be able to fulfill my obligation as taking this debt out and being able to commit and make those payments comfortably while still having somewhat of a bit of a lifestyle, because a lot of our clients tell us to, and we don't want to overstretch them. They still want to have that lifestyle that, you can still go for dinner, out for a nice dinner once in a while, go take that family trip once a year, or, there's always events coming up that you'll need to put a little bit aside, and then of course save for the rainy day. So I think it comes down to just being comfortable with the amounts and still having somewhat of a lifestyle. I think that's a big thing. And then knowing that amount, so if we went from 25, like you said, now all of a sudden I'm paying $3,500 a month plus utilities, and then it just becomes getting comfortable knowing that your savings won't be as attractive anymore. However, you also do own something and have an asset, and you're paying down your interest and principal, not just towards rent, like you said. So I think it comes down to motivation and your
wanting
future.
I think it's wanting to own, because we had this conversation actually yesterday too, where I always tell people, don't look at the price, because sometimes people get a little bit nervous about seeing a $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 mortgage, and they look at that number and they're like, oh my God, that's such a big debt. And the thing is that you want to look at your monthly payments, especially as a first-time buyer, so that you can see if you're going to, if it's really going to make your house poor, if it's really going to change your lifestyle, or Or depending on the rates, and if you can stretch back to 30 years or how much money you have to put down, that actually might work for you. And you might say, hey, you know what, I'm okay paying a little bit more, but I own this place. No one's going to kick me out. I can decorate it the way I want. Maybe I can improve it so that when I do sell, I can bring back even more money. So these are all things to consider. It is scary, especially if you don't rent. Like if you're living in with your parents or like in for free, that's even harder because you have maybe no cost or minimal expenses, and then going right into having a really, 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 let's say, large car payment is what it becomes, right?
Yeah.
So you really want to be a homeowner and really value the fact that you are being able to own. I think that's the biggest thing. And leading into the next part of this, we talked quickly there about forced savings, but one of the hardest things I find that people, when we talk to first-time buyers, especially if they're later on in their life, they're like, well, we don't have enough money, so what, we're going to save this year to have more of a down payment. Mm-hmm. What was happening, now we're kind of in more of a steady stay-at-home steady leveled market, but what's been happening, and it'll probably continue, is that every year with inflation, the market goes up 2-3%, sometimes 5%, depending on the year. And let's say on $1 million home, even at 3%, that's $30,000. So for you to save up $30,000, if you can even do that in a year, the next year you're going to be no better off ahead, because that property now has gone up by inflation by 2 or 3%, and now the $1 million property is now $1,030,000, and you've saved up 30, so your down payment doesn't really do much. So the ability to buy something and hold and live in it will give you more money to kind of pull and use that equity, and even port a mortgage, build credit with the bank so that they might be able to lend you more, or extend different services to maybe get you into bigger property later on. Do you kind of, how do you feel? I feel like people get nervous with
I think that's the part of the hesitation, is this sort of unknown. There's a lot of different moving parts to understand, right? Whether it's the location, like we have some clients that are looking in Toronto, and then they also like Vaughan, but they like Toronto more for the, the schools and the, activities. So I think it's a lot when you just don't know, like you don't know what you don't know. So it's a lot of information, a lot of research you have to do. And you always kind of, I know I do, second guess myself if I'm making the right decisions. So sometimes you kind of, these are the thoughts that spiral late at night in your mind, right? Yeah. So I think that's, it's a lot. It's overwhelming at times too. And I know for myself, I've always sold first. And then sometimes, the clock is ticking. It's like, oh, I have to find a place. And I just find myself, doing that scroll on, on the MLS system to try to find a place. And it's like, oh, that too. Sometimes they get nervous. Do we buy the place first, or do we, got to give notice if, again, you're a first-time buyer and a tenant. Yeah. So will we find the right place? Will we get even outbid? Like we're seeing now in the East End that multiple offers has been crazy, like almost unbelievable, like double digits. So I think it's a lot of things, right? So then you get a place, then you get excited, you see it, you feel it, you love it, you want it, and then all of a sudden we lost out on one for $2,000. That was the bid that won the house, and ours was $2,000 less. So I think there's a lot of factors that happen, and it can be a lot at once, especially when I know when I want something, I want it. So, to want it and then not get it, it, sometimes leaves the client feeling discouraged a little bit too. And
then they go back to like what's comfortable, which is I'll just rent for it. But don't do that. Trust me, you'll get something. Especially if you're looking for a condo now, it's good. But this isn't on our list of topics, but I just thought about it. I'll do mine, but I want to do yours. What was your first property that you bought, first-time buyer? How did you feel? And give a quick maybe a minute or two of how that came about and how you bought it.
Quick story. It was my friend, bless his soul, he's no longer with us. My friend's older brother was a realtor at the time, so I was looking to get into the market. My first property was at 50 Eglinton Avenue West. It was a beautiful sub-penthouse condo. I just walked in. I loved the place. And back then, in those days, I'm going to age myself now, it was only $153,000 for a beautiful 700 square foot, one
Yeah.
bedroom penthouse condo. So I ended up, I think we did a sign back maybe once or twice, was pretty quick. And then we did a quick closing. I kept that. And then I got a good tenant there that rented and helped offset, my expenses, because she was there for almost 3 years. And then I figured move up. And looking back, when he suggested I could have got, semi-detached in the area, this is Mississauga near Square One, I thought, well, I just didn't have that money. And back then, I'm actually going to share this, which I don't tell people usually, but I was with Home Trust. I was young, and I think I was paying close to like 14% interest.
Yeah.
So there was no profit at the end of the day. Mind you, like I said, I had a good tenant. She was there. I remember her first name was Jenny, and she stayed there till she moved to Ottawa because she got transferred for work. But,
and how'd you feel about that process, making that offer for the first one? Were you nervous? Were you like pretty certain that you were like, hey, I wanted to do this?
I was more excited than I was nervous. A little bit nervous with respects to, again, I have to now, get a tenant. What does that look like? And I think I kept it even vacant for a couple of months because I wanted to experience. Now here I was very young, like very early 20s. I wanted to have that place of my own. And I remember I didn't even tell my parents when I did this. So I did it behind their back, and that was not, that didn't turn out so well.
Yeah, so that was your first.
But looking back, I should have listened to the agent when he was like, Merilyn, why don't you buy a semi down the street? With like, you could do 2 units here for $275. They're starting at, and I was like, well, I don't have that kind of money. But looking back, now they're probably
made it work.
Oh yeah, they're probably worth almost close to $1 million now. So at the time, you do what you can. So as a first-time buyer, that's what I did. I did what I could. I just put my heels, dug them down, and it was, a bit of a walk of shame having to accept that 14% interest, but that's what I was, that was the only way to get it done at the time, and that's what I did. So how about you?
So mine was, I bought my rental, I still have it in London, and I remember I went up on my own. I was probably 24, 25, and I had just finished Western, so I kind of knew the area. I went and I booked, I just got my real estate license, so I booked like 4 or 5 properties on my own.
So you represented yourself, just to be clear.
I did. Okay. It might have been even my first transaction.
Wow.
I don't know.
Your first deal on yourself.
My first deal was on myself, and I remember the house I was looking for. I found the one. I brought my dad up just to kind of get a second opinion the second time, because you were able to kind of go back and forth. Back then, it's not like sometimes crazy here. And I remember the property was, I ended up going in at like 230, so it was listed at 245. Okay. And I ended up paying 240 because they're like, there might be another offer, and being green, I didn't even know. But he goes, they had it sold and then it fell through, so we want 240. So at the time, I'm like, okay, 240. Yeah. And I kind of had ways to qualify. I had a good broker at the time, so the same thing, I was able to qualify, but I had like maybe, I think it was like 5%. I didn't have much down. And I remember getting the keys for this place, because back then, like, you had to go to the lawyer's office, and it was in London. Right. So I drove up there by myself, and I get these keys, and I open this house, and I'm like, what the hell did I just, why I'm in London, you know what I mean? But I'll be honest, that was the best investment I made. I still have that house. That's great. I rented to 6 students at Western, and it's, I'm so happy that I did that. I wasn't getting the appreciation like some people did in Toronto, but what I did was I was getting really good rent there, and that allowed me to pay down a lot of my mortgage, so I was able to use that money to buy other properties. So that was my first one. But it's nerve-wracking, I'll tell you. Going up there, you're excited, you're nervous, you're like, how am I going to make these payments? It's just like a lot of emotions. And now owning a few properties as rentals, I'm sure, and you do too, it's like you kind of look at the numbers and you just kind of go through it. It's like having, I guess, a second or third kid. The first one you kind of coddle and you check on everything. And what I've heard, because I don't have kids, is that by the second or third, just like tossing them all over the place. So that's exciting. So that's good to hear your first story. So, and
it sounds like, I just want to, on that point, sounds like you have a bit of an emotional attachment to your first house in London, Adriano.
I think I have an attachment to all of them. What I'm gonna,
but your first is always your first.
It is. It's my baby, and it's done well for me, so I'm happy with that one. And to be honest, I've never sold a house until the flip that we tried. That was the first time. I've never sold any. All the properties I've kept. So
I did not know that. Should have bought me out and kept that one.
There's that.
Cool.
But so I guess going forward, so you have the motivation, you have the forced savings. So if you're at a point as a buyer where you actually want to purchase something and you're okay with the costs and stuff like that.
And I have a question, yes.
Yeah.
So first time buyer, I have an idea, I'm thinking maybe Toronto, maybe I want to go north because, you got a little more land and it's a more, suburbs type of feel, not as busy. So my question is, how do I start my search? I've never met with an agent. I've never gone to any open houses. I've never even seen any properties other than the ones that I've always kind of leased through a private group. So where do I start my search?
So I'm going to answer this in two questions, because we have one where how people probably start their search and what they should do. So how most first-time buyers will probably start their search is they're going to take a guess at what they can afford monthly or what number they think is good. So they might say, I can afford 500, I can afford 700. And then they'll go online and they'll start, clicking on maybe some advertisements to get listings sent to them, or to look on realtor.ca or House Sigma or whatever. And that's great, but that's not really giving you any guidance or information. That's just telling you what is being sold and what is available, and if you like it. The problem with that is it's like leaving your house without having a destination to go to. You're going to get to the end of your street and you're like, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go forward? Because there's no guidance. There's no, you don't know what you can afford. You don't even know, maybe you might know locations, but you don't know, the biggest thing is you don't know what price point you can afford. So you could be looking at properties that are unaffordable. You could be looking at ones that are below your budget and you could afford more. So that's how most buyers start. They just start, touching base, and you might get a call from a realtor and they'll be like, okay, look for, and then all of a sudden you got like 10 realtors sending you stuff, and you're getting the same properties. It's a little bit messy, but that's how most people start. Do you agree with that? For the most part, was there anything maybe I missed there?
I think we're going to get to the financial aspect, like approved first, but continue. You're doing good. Yeah.
And then what should happen, so if you are serious about making a purchase, it's very good to have a plan and get very concise on what you want to do, because that'll get you to the next point in your search very easily. So what you should do is speak with a realtor. If you don't know one, you can find one. You can look online. We're always available. We do these buyer consultations all the time. And what this will do is it will give you an idea of the process, because the biggest thing is getting pre-approved. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the pre-approval is going to basically give us as realtors a really good indication of how to guide you. It'll give you an idea of, number one, whether you can afford to buy, and what you need to do to get to where you need to do, like down payment and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then you're working with someone who, if you give us your goals and needs, when we go show you properties, and you should see them in person, because pictures, sometimes the nicest pictures, you go there, it doesn't show well, and then sometimes places that don't show as well in pictures are the ones you end up buying. That is the reality. You start seeing places, and as a realtor, we get to know what you like, what you don't like, and we can guide you and steer you to properties that will meet your needs, so that you can actually end up buying something very, very, very quickly. And I feel like that's the best way to go about doing that.
So, last question.
Yeah.
I know my finances. I don't want to engage with a broker just yet. I just want to sort of start understanding the neighborhoods and what's out there. So I call you and I say, I'd like to start looking at some properties. Will you still take me out even though I don't have a financial commitment, or we really don't know? Like, I could tell you obviously roughly what my income is. I know I have good credit because I recently checked that. And I have an idea in terms of, my job stability and how much I can put as a down payment. Am I still okay to start looking, or would you?
I would still suggest a pre-approval, like a soft one, because it won't hurt your credit, but it'll give you a thing. Because just because you make money, and this happens even with renters. Some people say, I make 100, 200 grand. I should be able to qualify for this. Then you look at the credit check, and depending on your debts, maybe there's student loans, maybe there's a car lease, maybe there's certain things on there. That's gonna be taken off your income.
Or
right?
sometimes people don't realize if they've co-signed, that affects as well. So they take a look at everything.
Yeah. So the goal would be, and then I've learned this. I've been doing this I think this is my 21st year. Same with Merilyn. But my first years, I was taking people out. Oh, I could 700,000. You go out, show them stuff at 700,000. Then they get pre-approved. All of a sudden, it's 500,000 that they can afford. So you start showing them stuff at 500,000. They don't like anything because they've seen everything at 700,000, and now nothing suits their needs, and they're all disappointed. And then it just everything goes up in flames, and it's a waste. It's kind of not a waste of time, but it really is for them, for us. You're better off, being more concise and seeing the stuff that you can afford. So that would be my suggestion on what you should do if you want to buy a property just to get into the market, how to start, the process of being a first-time buyer.
So I'm a first-time buyer. What are my steps? Walk me through step by step the process.
Okay, so first-time buyers, this is the meat and potatoes of what you need to do. So first off, get pre-approved. So that's number one. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The reason for that is to figure out what you can afford, right? A lot of times it comes down to your down payment. Sometimes maybe you need to save a little bit more to get into a bigger house. Maybe you ask family, maybe you have money coming to you. So these are all things that take into account. Other times they might say, hey, listen, you have a debt on a credit card, or you have a car to pay off, or a car loan. If you can get rid of that, that'll help you qualify for more. So these are all things that a pre-approval will bring out, that you either know what you want, or it'll help you get to maybe where you need to be. And this is very important. If you are thinking of financing or leasing a car, do it after you buy, because it's easier to get a finance and approved for a finance than it is to then lease a car and then try to get approved for a home.
That happened to me once, actually.
Yeah, so listen, if you get one thing out of this podcast and you want to buy, if you're thinking of buying a car or a house, buy your house first, then go and lease, or unless you're buying the car outright, but then that could go towards your down payment. So
sounds good.
Number one, so get pre-approved. Okay.
Got it.
Once you're pre-approved, then you come to someone like myself and Merilyn, and you can find the location, okay? Because sometimes location is dependent on what you can afford. Sometimes people come and I go, I want to be here, 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 here. And I'm like, let's get pre-approved. Then by being pre-approved, it eliminates 3 out of the 5, and now we can focus on the 2 areas where you can actually afford.
Now, just to chime in here, we can help you with that. So if you feel, I don't know who to go to, I don't know who's, reputable, I don't know anything about the finance world in terms of getting approved because it's my first time, then I can come to you and say, hey, Adriano, is there someone that, you can recommend that you trust, that I have all my private, confidential documents that I'm going to be sending via email, like that you can guide me through that? You can help me through that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we do. So we work with, so if that was the question, we do work with really good mortgage brokers, and sometimes people will go to their bank. So quickly back to the pre-approval. The good thing about a mortgage broker is, depending on your situation, they can shop rates around. Sometimes they can go to a traditional bank, so like a Scotia, TD. Other times they might go to a credit union or even a secondary lender. Your rates might be a little bit higher, but they may be a little bit, they might be able to get you a little bit more money, depending on your credit, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes into the pre-approval. I think with the top banks, you have to be over like 680 on a credit in order to be approved. So if your credit maybe is a bit bruised, a broker
work on that.
Work on that, but a broker may be able to get you into another lending institution that can get you the money. So and we have really good connections with a lot of good mortgage brokers that have helped us personally and that have helped a lot of our clients. So Pre-approval, then we get into finding the location. So we talked about the reason why the pre-approval will help you pick the location that you want to be in.
Okay, so there's a location, we've narrowed it down. I want to be in, mid-Etobicoke. I want to be around the Richview area because my son is going to be going to school there and I have friends there, so I love it.
Yeah.
And I found one, I think this could be the one. What's next?
So if we go through and it fits your budget and everything like that, and you feel good about it, the next step is submitting an offer. So the way that we can do that is depending on how it's structured. So if they're holding an offer date, then
that makes me nervous.
well, it can't. Listen, in this market right now, and this is April of 2026, things aren't going crazy over what the value is. So there's a difference between value and what it's listed at. If a property should sell around 1.5 million and it's listed at 999 and it gets 1.5 million or 1.525, people are going to say, "Oh my God, it sold 500,000 over asking." That's not really what happened there. What happened is they stimulated probably a lot of interest and they got maybe just a little bit above what fair market value is. It's not like what it was 2 or 3 years ago where every week it was going up, 20, 30,000 just because there was a lack of inventory. So don't let that scare you, and we can help you through that if it's a multiple offer situation because there's home inspections, there's other things, and we can talk about that at a different time.
Right.
But in a traditional one, the offer price is there. Myself and Merilyn will look at comparables in the area to say, where do we want to land on this price? And we come up with a first offer price. Now, most times you'll be able to go back and forth maybe a couple of times, and you'll work on price, you'll work on maybe a closing date, you'll have conditions in there like financing, home inspection, if it's a condo, status certificate. And these are all things that we can discuss. And that benefits the buyer. And so
I need my 5% deposit. So if I'm buying for $1 million to keep it even math purposes, I have my 50,000. It's ready to go, just sitting, waiting in a checking account to put towards. So tell me about my deposit and my down payment. How does that all tie in?
So a deposit needs to be available within 24 hours of an acceptance of an offer. So let's say we put the offer in today, and let's say we go back and forth, and tomorrow it gets accepted.
So this is traditional or an offer date?
This is traditional, but either way, it's 24 hours. So when your offer gets accepted, whether it's in an offer date or whether it's going back and forth, let's say an offer is accepted today, within 24 hours, that 5% deposit has to be given to the listing broker's trust account. It gets held in there. And so make sure that some people have money in RSPs or in maybe a TFSA or sometimes we've even had with like Tangerine and some of those other banks that are online. You can't get a bank draft within 24 hours. Sometimes it takes a few days. So if you think you're going to be putting in an offer, the suggestion would be to either open another account and have that money sitting in there so that you can access it very quickly. That's very important because for some reason, if you don't bring that in within 24 hours, technically the deal is dead. And if another offer came in, they can go and accept that and you lose out on that property.
And with offer dates, just to add to that point, a lot of times we even see the deposit herewith. So what means it's not coming. So if we have an offer date tonight, which we do, it's not tomorrow that I'll go to the bank. A lot of times, a lot of buyers, when you're in multiples where you're competing with other buyers, they'll actually go to the bank ahead of time and have it ready and take a photo, send in, part of your offer with the file, the picture of your deposit being ready. So the bank draft, if it's for Remax, is the listing broker, then, Remax for 50,000 for that $1 million purchase is ready to go, so that they know that it is going to be delivered this evening or first thing in the morning. Not, I still have to go and work out my deposit. So just wanted to add.
Yeah, that's great because what ends up happening is if you get it accepted and it's 10 at night. If you're close to the person, you can go deliver. But usually myself or Merilyn have to get in a car if it's herewith, pick it up and go deliver it to make sure that you get the house that you want. Quickly, you asked about deposit and down payment. So a deposit, makes up part of your down payment, and that's usually at the front. So if, let's say you're putting 20% down on $1 million house, that's 200,000. 5% is your deposit, so 50,000 will be given within 24 hours of acceptance or herewith. That other 150,000 that makes up your total down payment will be given on your closing date. So that could be 60 days, 90 days.
Whatever my closing is.
And what happens is you bring 150,000 to your lawyer plus transfer tax and everything. And that 50,000 that's held in the listing broker's trust account ends up going either to your lawyer or to the listing, to the seller's lawyer. And that makes up your full 20% deposit if you want to know kind of where your money kind of flows and where it is sitting. Now, one quick thing, if for some reason you have conditions in your offer and your conditions aren't fulfilled, meaning you can't get financing or you don't like the home inspection, that deposit will be returned to you within probably 7 to 10 days it usually takes.
A couple of business days for sure.
But if the offer's firm, meaning 100%, and you give that deposit, then that offer
stands. It's held for the purchase.
It's held, and it basically you're not going to get that money back. But that's something we can talk about. That rarely happens.
Next episode.
But it can. That's another episode.
What to avoid? Okay.
What to avoid, right?
Yes.
And then I guess the final thing after that is you basically take possession. Most possessions are, I'd say 45, maybe 30 to 45 days on a quick close.
That's exciting.
And it could be like 90 to 120 days, so 3 to 4 months on a long close. And in between there, we're going to put in stuff like rights to revisit. So you'll have maybe 2 or 3 times to go back. You can take measurements.
This is where I can bring my family this time. So
family, contractors.
Do the sale behind their back. And they don't talk to me for a month.
The other realtor you didn't use to show them what you actually bought with a good realtor. What we suggest is that maybe doing one of your final revisits closer to closing so that you can test the appliances and make sure everything works if it says in the offer in good working order. So these are little things that we talk to our buyers about throughout the process in stages, so you're not overwhelmed all in one shot going through that process, because there is a lot of I guess meat to chew at each level, so we have to set a plan up and move forward. But if you are looking to buy as a first-time buyer, it's kind of easy to get pre-approved, find an agent that you feel comfortable with, that you can speak with, that you feel is trustworthy, looking out for your best interest. You don't have to pay them, which is a great thing. They get paid through the seller, so that's important too. So why not get someone who's looking out for your best interest, because it doesn't cost you anything. Find the locations you like, go see properties, submit an offer, put your deposit down, go revisit before you take possession, and then congratulations, you become a homeowner. And that's basically the simplest way to do it, and that's usually how it happens when you have a plan. Anything to add to that?
I think that's great. I'm actually looking forward to the common mistakes to avoid in our next episode, because I think there will be a lot to speak about to that. So I think that is almost like a part 2, like we said about home inspections and stuff like that, because things rarely do, but they can go south. So we want to know, what types of things, to avoid.
And also not even avoid, like how to deal with them. Because sometimes things happen that you just don't have control over. And it's like, how does it get dealt with? Who deals with it?
What's the solution?
The lawyers step in? Is it the seller? Is it the buyer? So that's a great topic that we can touch on next week. Quickly, as we always do, health-wise, what are you doing to keep positive, to keep going into the spring? What are you doing?
Every morning I turn on a nice calming music as I'm getting ready, and I'm trying this new thing where I keep my phone on silent. I time block in the morning where I try to do some, catching up on calls and emails, and everyone that knows me knows I always have my phone on me and in my hand, and it's a distraction. So I'm trying something where now first thing in the morning I keep it on silent, but I will get to my, emails or, see the calls that I've missed and who I have to call back. But I start my routine. I have a Sonos system, so I put some nice calm yoga music on. I get ready slowly. I make sure that I, have something healthy that gets me going for the morning. And then I start, getting to my time block,
Yeah.
which would be calls or, answering emails or booking staging or photographers or whatever it is we have to do. So that's my trying to do more of a routine, get in the habits, positive habits.
That's great. I forgot which book it is. It could be 5 a.m. Club or another book, but they were saying that everyone, when they wake up, they always shower and they do their hair and they put on makeup to prepare themselves for the day.
Right.
But everything is exterior, but no one prepares themselves mentally for the day. And so doing that kind of stuff, I feel like I started doing that too a few years ago, and I feel like it just gets you into a good mindset so you can kind of deal with, some days are easier than others, but in our business, trust me, sometimes that phone doesn't stop ringing, so you really have to be in a good mindset. For me, I just continue to do my daily routines, workouts. I like reading in the mornings because I don't fall asleep. If I do it at night, I'm going to fall asleep. And I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to the warmer weather, and I got a trip booked in June for my health to Europe, so that's going to be nice. And I know you have you have a lot of exciting things coming up too. Yeah. So a lot of things to be positive about and happy about. And if this episode has helped you, like we said, we have other episodes that touch on upsizing, that touch on other aspects of the market. So check it out at a.m.realty group on Spotify, real estate, wealth, and overall health. So
until next time, take care of your real estate,
your wealth,
and your overall health.